Hi, my name is Andy Kekacs, and I'm with the Nova Scotia Woodlot Owners and Operators Association. I'm here today to talk with you about an exciting new project in Nova Scotia, which is called the Family Forest Network. Before we go much further, I really want to say how happy I am to be here, even if it's just virtually with you after 2 years. It's nice to think of all of you gathering together for the first time. I've missed you. I'm sorry I'm not there, but I'm visiting elderly relatives out of province and also my brand new granddaughter. So the first task that I have today is to figure out how to get my presentation on the screen, and we'll give it a trial, and bear with me for just a moment, please. With any luck, right now you see something that says the Family Forest Network of Nova Scotia. And I suppose that's one benefit of the pandemic is that we've all learned a little bit more about technology. Let's see if we can advance this slide and then things will be pretty good. Well, look at that. So today I want to talk with you about the partnership that brought the Family Forest Network forward, about some of our goals, about the specific pilot that the initiative is built around, about some of the collaborations that have developed out of this project. We'll talk about two folks who are kind of important, who like what we're trying to do, and then we'll wrap it up by telling you how to reach out to us to get more information in case you're interested. All right. So it's an interesting group of organizations that came together to forward this idea to the Forestry Information Innovation Transition Trust, which was established by Premier McNeil after the closure of Northern Pulp to work toward the transformation of the forest sector. So the application we sent in to FIT was built on our support for the recommendations of William Lahey and his independent review of forest practices in Nova Scotia, which was released in 2018. A few weeks after that report came out, many of the organizations, not all of them, but almost all of them on this list came together and said, you know, this is kind of different. Lahey's recommendations incorporate what we've been hearing from small landowners for many, many years, and we need to support it. Each one of us probably had some reservations about one or another parts of his recommendations, but we thought that taken as a whole, it provided a real jump forward, a leap forward really for private land forestry in Nova Scotia. And so a couple weeks after the report came out in 2018, we sent a letter to Premier McNeil that said, we like this, we're behind it, how can we help? As you know, it took some while for the process to get started. The ship of forestry is in fact a super tanker, and it's taken some time to change. And so around 2020, I guess, we submitted an application collectively to FIT to begin the work ourselves of implementing the Lahey recommendation on private lands. It took a while for FIT to winnow through the many applications that it got, but it called us and several partners together in July of 21 and said, you know, you are all working toward projects that advance the interests of small private landowners. Perhaps you could work together and come up with a combined project that addressed more of the values that small landowners have. And in fact, one comment by a trust member, which was particularly interesting to us, was he said, what is the long vision for forestry in Nova Scotia? What's the long vision? And we looked around at ourselves and we realized we had all had, you know, visions, but not the complete vision, and that we really should sit down and try to answer his question, because it was a smart question. And so we spent several more months doing that, and finally got together a project in September of 2021, submitted it, and was approved. The project goals are ambitious, frankly. The core point of the project is to advance the adoption of ecological forestry on small private lands. We'll do that through outreach, through demonstration of ecological practices, and research into their costs and their benefits. We wanted forest landowners to lead this process, so we're developing a network led by stewards to address the challenges that we see in implementing ecological forestry. We'll do that first by creating a large-scale pilot, and we'll talk a lot about that in a minute, so I won't say much more about that. And through that pilot, we really hope that ecological forestry will become more prevalent across the landscape because we've worked together to create financially viable solutions through strategic partnerships. So we've realized that none of us can do this alone, and we need to work together and try to advance a different paradigm. As my boss, Lauren Burrows, who's chairman of Nova Scotia Woodlot Owners and Operators, said, we're really creating the brand for Nova Scotia forestry for the next generation. You know, we've spent more than a generation, almost 2 generations, in an industrial model of ownership mainly, and now we're looking at something that's a little bit different. And so we're literally, through this project, creating how small landowners may operate on their lands for our lifetimes and beyond. At least my lifetime, because I'm not going to be around for much more than 30 years. We want to support healthy and productive woodlands. We believe in cutting trees, but we think they should come from healthy, natural, diverse, resilient, well-managed forest, and managed in accordance with ecological principles, as Bill Lahey suggested was the wise thing to do. We want to contribute significantly to the forest sector through the provision of high quality and valuable wood products, and we hope to obtain fair compensation for everybody within that chain, for landowners, for foresters, for harvesters, and for mills. So as I said, a lot of us got together to move this project forward, and in fact it's the first time in the history of the province that 11 organizations of this range have come together in support of an initiative for small private landowners. We will be welcoming additional partners as the project progresses within the context of our goals, which largely revolve around the non-industrial private forest land owners and their relationship to ecological forestry. And we hope that through this network, it's more of a vision statement than a reality at present, but we hope that landowners will get the information, advice, services, referrals, and market access that they need, that service providers will get the workers and training they need in order to rise to the challenge of ecological forestry. And we don't discount that a change of this magnitude is difficult. We have equipment, we have training, we have employment, and many other issues that we need to work out. We're not at all ignoring that. It's a challenge for our contractors, and we have to figure out how to help them make the change for those who are willing to do that. As I said, we want forest products firms to thrive from a stable supply of high quality raw material. We believe that not only is that good for the mills, but it's good for the landowners. It's good for the whole sector. And if we succeed in those things, Nova Scotia will in fact be a global model for ecologically sensitive, economically productive, and socially responsible forest management. We will be leading the world if we can embrace across the matrix lands these goals. I know that to be the case. So as I said, this initiative is really built on a pilot. And over the next 5 years, we'll be reaching out to do a large-scale pilot of ecologically sensitive forest practices on approximately 200 woodlots in Nova Scotia. We'll do a variety of different treatments and a variety of locations for a stand condition, and so forth. That work is not inexpensive. FFN, FIT, the Innovation Trust, awarded us $9.8 million over 5 years for the pilot and associated activities, for which we're very grateful. You should know that I think the largest single component of that amount goes to contractors. We know that we need to work with them to figure out how to make this work. And so those funds will help to allow contractors to be engaged, essentially risk-free, in helping us to figure out what the next generation of forestry looks like. Considering past concerns about government programs, I want to say right up front that this pilot will only work with willing landowners who volunteer to participate. This is not something that anyone will be required to do. If you want to learn more about it and may be interested, at the very end I'll have some contact information for you. This is not a government imposed solution. This is a solution that's arising from small private landowners who want to see better conditions in our forests. In addition, the forest researchers that we will hire to do the assessment work on what we're doing will work with our Nova Scotia foresters to create selection criteria about forest stands that will be included. So not everyone will be able to join. We're going to be testing specific treatments in specific conditions, and that will be established both through our own foresters and the research scientists who are working with them. And as I said, the fundamental goal of both the Lahey review and our project was to show how forestry is best managed and practiced in Nova Scotia within an ecological forestry paradigm, as Bill Lahey said in his report. We believe and we aim to demonstrate that there are economically viable and ecologically preferable alternatives to intensive management. We know from 40 years of research that landowners, small landowners, are increasingly interested in non-clear cutting approaches to forest management and approaches that recognize other values in the forest, whether that's carbon, climate adaptation, wildlife habitat, biodiversity, species at risk, clean water, recreation, even an aesthetically pleasing forest. They have a wide range of values. Those values go beyond current income, and they've been telling us that for 40 years in dozens and dozens of research studies across the industrialized world, and it's really time that we listen to them and give them some opportunities to achieve their goals and their visions. And so the pilot, working through the scientists, will quantify for the first time in Nova Scotia the economic, environmental, and social benefits and costs of ecological forestry, and produced evidence-based recommendations. So from what we've learned, we will have recommendations for conducting ecologically sensitive management on small woodlands. Enough said about that for now, probably. We intend to have a very robust evaluation of our activities. There will be a rigorous process established, including very intense data collection, pre and post harvests, performance measures, tracking, and just, this is not going to be a situation in which we go out and declare success, but rather that we have the evaluation model in hand prior to beginning work, overseen by an independent party, third party of real, forest scientists who will look at what we're doing and what we're accomplishing. And we believe that if successful, and we intend to be successful, that our approach, being consistent with small landowner values, will encourage many more private owners to participate in the forest economy, which will have a significant positive impact on local wood supply. As I said, we're not unmindful of the challenges faced by contractors. In particular, we want to look at new ways of operating, creativity in the use of equipment, and how to use data collection to inform good decision making about what treatments we're doing. Excuse me, to incentivize woodlot owners and also to make sure that others in the system are fairly compensated. Boy, this is a lot to digest, isn't it? I really wish I was there with you today, but there you go. As part of that session that FIT, the trust called in July 21 with those organizations, we expanded our partnership in several ways to bring in new elements to address the question about what is the long vision. We brought in MTRI in Southwest Nova and Community Forests International in New Brunswick to look at biodiversity and carbon with us. There will be biodiversity and carbon assessments performed on every parcel in the pilot. And as I said, that data will help to determine how we actually implement the treatment, which treatments we choose and how they're implemented, as well as layouts of roads and trails and other aspects of the harvests, right? We also brought in the Medway Community Forest Cooperative's Nova Scotia Working Woodlands Trust, which is hoping to offer, which will offer, in fact, it's well underway now, toward offering an alternative to small woodland stewards who are interested in finding responsible ways to manage intergenerational transfer of their woodlots. Much more on that in the future. We're very pleased to have them as a partner. Also extremely pleased to be offering internships for NSCC students. The community college system has received previously funding from FIT to develop and enhance its natural resources and forestry programs, and we intend to give a number of those students internships within our project, creating a well-trained, capable, enthusiastic workforce that can effectively perform these treatments is an essential part of what needs to happen. And we really look forward to working with them. We were also delighted to enter into a partnership with the Confederacy of Mainland Mi'kmaq, and will specifically employ and involve a Mi'kmaq naturalist in the work of our steering committee, in the final design and the conduct of our harvesting pilot, in our outreach events, and pretty much anywhere else that we can involve them. We are interested and believe that small landowners' perspectives on forestry are closely aligned with Mi'kmaq beliefs about how forests should be managed. We're excited to explore that, and the Council of Chiefs has endorsed this project, for which we're very grateful. In fact, we'll get to the endorsement just after this slide. Bill Lahey liked this. As you can imagine, he put a couple of years, I guess, of his life into, and a number of other very qualified people have put a long portion of their life into making the report and the recommendations both ecologically reasonable and politically possible. As you can imagine, and as you well know, there are different perspectives about how our forests should be managed, about what's acceptable and what isn't, and people feel very, very strongly about this. And Bill, who by the way is an absolutely wonderful human being. If you ever have a chance to listen to him, you should. He's just a fine guy, frankly. Bill sat down and essentially said, "How do I do the right thing and still make sure there's space to bring everybody along in the bus?" And as I said, we think that he did that, and he watched the province move toward implementation, and was delighted when our project came forward to implement on the small landowner side, was delighted to support it, for which we're very grateful. And as let's see. Wow, getting a little sensitive here. 1 second. My heavens. There we go. Sorry about that. The Council of Mainland Mi'kmaq Chiefs also endorsed the project. They noted that it was consistent with their values and that the naturalist would help to ensure that Mi'kmaq perspectives remained in the forefront. And they and we believe that this project and our collaboration is a necessary step in the transformation of the forest sector. I should say we're also working with Cape Breton Mi'kmaq. I happen to serve on the Minister's Advisory Committee for Lahey implementation with Angie Gillis at CMM. And so I spoke with her about their involvement because I knew her. However, we're developing a better relationship with folks on the Cape Breton Mi'kmaq communities as well. And we look forward to expanding that in the very near future. What else is there to be said? Well, now, of course, if I was there, you would have a lot of questions, as you should, because we just covered a really large amount of ground in a very short time period. Thank you for being there to listen. I do think this is worth your time to learn a little bit more about. And you can do that at one of our websites, nswoods.ca, at the Family Forest Network page, where you can also sign up to receive updates about the project. If you're interested in participating, or if you're a contractor or forest professional who may want to work with us, that's the place to sign up for more information, so you're aware of where the project is at and how you can become involved. At the moment, we're still awaiting the final contract from the province. We expect that will be signed shortly, but I don't know the date exactly. But the odds of us getting funding from FIT to get started by late April are probably pretty good. Or shortly thereafter. So now's the time to go in, check out the page for a little more information, sign up for more updates, because I'm fairly sure that updates will be coming soon. You're also welcome to write to me at my work email address, which is on the screen. I'm going to be playing with my granddaughters for the next little bit, so you won't get an immediate response, but I'll get back with you. And I really appreciate your interest and your willingness to listen to this today. So thank you very much.